Welcome back, everyone. My name is Sam.
And I'm Melissa.
I grew up in the FLDS community. It is a polygamous group run by Warren Jeffs, and I moved out when I was 18 years old.
I was raised LDS. Sam and I have been married for 9 years and have two awesome kiddos.
Yes, we do. We are back today with our fresh eyes on Sister Wives, and more specifically, fresh eyes on the wedding of Christine.
Yes, a lot of you had requested for us to do this, and even for us, it was fun to get to see Christine be so happy. You know, our Fresh Eyes on Sister Wives, I think we're through season 7. And then we have watched and reviewed this last season as well, if you want to click above and see us reacting to season 18. But it was fun to get to see, you know, we saw at the beginning unhappiness, you see at the end everything break apart, and then this is like a whole new chapter in her life, which was super sweet.
Yes, I really enjoyed getting to see Christine be happy. Just,
Yes.
just plain and simple as that. Throughout the other seasons leading up to season 18, in the beginning, it seemed like she tried hard to be happy. She tried hard for her faith to go along with the polygamy and what it was that Cody was putting her through, and I guess, the religious aspect and what it meant for her and how important it was that she went along with all of that. But to truly be herself now and get to see her be so in love and so happy is something that we've seen, at least us, for the first time.
Yeah, and I like where you say like getting to be herself, because there's the expectation, you know, in the AUB and especially within polygamous communities, of the expectations of women. You know, she was expected to be a plural wife. She was expected to have a lot of children, which she did. She was expected to always try to be a better sister wife. Like Cody says, she was, oh, a horrible sister wife, this or that. There's a lot of expectations. And I thought it was cute that even her and Truly were talking about how weird it was going to be having like a man in their house full time.
Right.
And they're both like, yeah, it's a little scary, like having a guy around all the time. And it made me super happy for both Truly and Christine to be able to have that experience and see what it feels like to have someone who loves and supports
Yeah.
you day in and day out and have their undivided attention and their undivided love. So it was super cute. They got married in Moab. So when we first saw the scene, we're like, is this St. George? Like, this looks a lot, all the red rock, right, is similar to where we
Right.
grew up in southern
Beautiful,
Utah.
beautiful area. If you're not familiar with Moab, we've been there at least once and spent some time there. But yeah, it's very beautiful. The red rocks, even if you are raised in red rock areas like St. George, it still is just breathtaking to see all of that. It was
Yeah.
beautiful scenery and beautiful place that they chose for their wedding, for sure.
Yeah, it was so fun to see all like so much family come out. Like I know that her father, they were saying, you know, he was supportive of her plural marriage, and though he believes in the law of polygamy, he still was like very supportive of her as well, which I thought was super sweet. It definitely hit my heartstrings a little bit when we saw that Christine's mom got to be there, because for her first wedding, for spiritual sealings, I guess it sounds like it's the same with AUB as what it is in the mainstream LDS church, that, you know, for those, you have to be a member of that church in order to be allowed. And this one hit me hard because when we got sealed and married in the St. George Temple, my dad was not able to attend. And it still, oh, I don't want to get emotional. It still makes me so sad that religious beliefs, you know, ostracize the people who don't believe the same, can't be a part of such a big deal. So it made my heart so happy to see her mom get to be there, and you could tell how much it meant to her mom as well.
Yes, for sure. It's a tricky thing because I think back at our wedding, and in that moment, I don't know, I guess I was just selfish, and I thought, you know what? This is what I want. This is what my belief. Therefore, if someone's not worthy to be a part of it or be there with us, then I feel very bad for this now. But in my mind back then, it was kind of the idea of, well, it's their fault. It's their fault that they're not worthy enough to be here with us. And it's just it's sad because that's a thought that I think is probably pretty common. And, and that's just because of the way that I guess things are taught that make you feel that you are in some way or another above other people. I don't know. It's just a tough line when you're trying to you love someone so much, but they're not allowed to be a part of something so special to you. It's hard to cope with that.
Yeah, and it's still, like I said, it's still something I'm not like fully over the fact, because I have an awesome relationship with my
Yeah.
dad, and I did then as well. And when you feel like the church is forcing you to choose God or your earthly father, and that was what I felt like the choice was for us. Like I had to choose okay, well, the most important thing is supposed to be God, and my religion and my commitment in the temple is more important. And obviously, have regrets about that. But it
Right.
made me happy to see Christine's mom get to be there.
And having, just to kind of go back as well, with, it's kind of sad to think about the weddings that, for example, Cody Brown had with his wives that weren't the first wife. They had a pretty good celebration for Mary when him and Mary got married, and then Janelle and Christine, like, because it was illegal, they weren't really celebrating what they were doing. And so they didn't really get to have a very special wedding, it sounds like. And it was a very small group of people that weren't even really dressed up, and just kind of went there and had this sealing ceremony, and that was that. And that kind of reminded me of the FLDS way of going about things, where there's just, because in the mainstream LDS church, there's the reception afterwards, where there's
Hmm.
where everyone's invited, and it's kind of like this party. People have a great time. So it's just the sealing in the temple that you have to be a member. It sounds like for the AUB and the FLDS church, everything was the sealing. For any of the second wives or third or fourth, it was the sealing only, not really a celebration at all,
Except for Robin, though.
except for Robin, because apparently they were now public at that time, so they thought that it would be okay.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure everybody watching this feels the same. Where we're like, Christine's like, yeah, that's not how it was for the plural wives. It's for the first wife, and for the plural wives, this was the reality. And I'm like, except for
Yeah,
Robin, right? And
that is true.
even Cody said though too that like he was. I thought it was interesting they even tried to do interviews with him at all for this episode, but they did, And he was saying like their wedding was super lackluster, is how he worded it. But he's like, my first two wives weren't even getting along, basically.
Hmm.
We're adding a third wife. And it sounds like the whole time in their life was just kind of super on edge and not in the best situation anyway. So again, being married into that situation at that time, it would be hard to be like, oh, let's go have a celebration if the other wives aren't even happy and excited about it. And I think that the other three for Robin's wedding tried really hard. It was obviously very hard emotionally for them, for him
Right.
to marry Robin at all, and their courting process and all that. But at least according to what we saw on the cameras, it looks like they tried to be supportive of her wedding. But I can imagine how much more that would hurt to
Hmm.
see her get to have a big celebration, and Janelle and Christine. That I can just understand that being one more stab to the wound.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear, speaking of the relationships between the husband and wives, it was interesting to hear some of Christine's children talk about, or maybe, I know Christine's children and Janelle's children, a lot of them attended the wedding, and I don't remember which one exactly, but they were talking about the fact that they felt that they had a great childhood, and
Hmm.
that they loved having all of the siblings around, and it was a good time, but that they felt bad for the parents, and that the
Mm.
parents clearly didn't have good relationships, and that there wasn't as much love being shared around throughout the parents as there was for the children.
Yeah, it's also funny too that all of them had said at one point, I think throughout this, that like they loved having so many siblings and that they felt like they had good childhoods. And then they always ended with a caveat, but I wouldn't want my kids to live that way, right? So
Right.
it's again like there's certain things that you can handle for yourself, that you can be like, that was okay, that wasn't even a big deal, whatever, it's all good. I'm grateful for how it is because I am who I am, all those type of things. But then when it comes down to like what you want for your own children is really when it makes you reflect on like, what things do I want?
Right.
And what do I consider overall good or not as good?
And when they say for my own, if they wouldn't want it for their own children, that would also have to mean that they would be in a polygamous marriage themselves, right?
Yeah.
So, yes, protecting your children from potentially being in a bad situation, but also not wanting to be in a bad situation themselves, which is I guess, speaks a lot for the fact that the Brown family parents and marriages just weren't in a very good place. It doesn't seem like they tried very hard in the first seasons to make it seem like it was.
Yeah. It didn't take long though for that to kind of unravel and become more
Exactly.
apparent.
Yeah, especially from people like Christine, who is now happily married to David, the love of her life, which
Yes.
she has said many times, which makes us very happy.
They're both so cute. David
Yeah,
is so funny because he would say things like that, but his like sense of humor is a lot more dry. But when he do or say something funny, like Sam and I were laughing our heads off.
yeah. He definitely seems like a great guy. Obviously, the camera shows what it shows, but from what we have seen and can tell, and it's pretty obvious looking at Christine and her face and her joy that he is a great person and is just perfect for her.
And that so many of the kids were like saying how much they like David and how
Right.
excited they were and happy for their mom and all that. I mean, all of her children, except for Gwen, which we all were like,
Gwen
where
was
is
not
I
there.
had to, okay, so I don't often look up like the gossipy stuff because I try to keep it as fresh eyes as possible when we go to do these. But I did have to look up. I was like, I wonder what was going on or why. And for those of you who haven't already researched this, I'm sure you all have. But if you
Yeah.
haven't, Gwen came out and actually said on her Patreon, like, oh, I was just super busy with school and with new house. And I
But
call BS. You're not gonna.
to
School is a little crazy, so I couldn't attend my mom's wedding. Like,
right.
there's obviously more going on. She's trying to squash it, and she has the right to her privacy as to why or why not she wanted to be there. It's all good. I'm not hating on Gwen for whatever their reasons are.
I'm
That's
sure there's a
private.
great reason.
Yeah, but also trying to like reduce the heat by saying, "Oh, I was busy with school." Like, that's not going to reduce the heat. Everyone's going to be like, "That doesn't really make sense."
Yeah.
So I don't think anyone will ever know. But
Yeah, and that's okay. Even some of her sisters, some of Christine's other daughters said that was this research as well,
it
or
was research
it was
as well. Like
research.
some of them didn't know
They
that
didn't
Gwen wasn't
say,
coming.
yeah, they didn't say anything about it at all on the show. The show didn't even bring up the fact that she wasn't there.
Nope.
And if we hadn't been looking for her, we probably wouldn't have even noticed, honestly. But we were wondering because we would see her throughout the other seasons before, and then all of a sudden she just wasn't there. So anyway, but yeah, some of the other sisters have said, not on the show, but just in articles and things, that
They
they
didn't know.
honestly didn't know what was going on either. Maybe that's true. I
The
don't know.
world may never know.
But it's a mystery to be solved or not be solved. Either way.
But most of our family and friends were there. Lots of Janelle's kids and
Yeah.
Janelle being there was so sweet. You know, they still refer to each other as sister wives, and
Yeah.
the amount that Christine involves Janelle is super sweet too. So
Yeah.
obviously they had each other and they were there for each other with raising their children together, and that's sweet to see that there could be something positive that came out of that.
Exactly. It's nice to see that at least two of the wives stuck together. They're still great friends, which that says something, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like they went through a lot of heartache and hard times together. They understand. I don't know that anyone else out there understands Christine as well as Janelle does, and Janelle as well as Christine does. And so having that person that kind of went through this together, with Cody being just so mean to them and saying things to them that are just awful, but it's nice that they have each other.
Yeah. They did do some interviews with Meri, and Meri was just super nice about it. She was like, listen, all this stuff's coming out about Cody, which we already know. Like, Meri was hearing stuff that Cody was saying about her, like, way later, too. So, whatever, obviously, she wasn't invited to the wedding, so there's still hurt there. But overall, Meri was like, I get it. Cody was being a jerk as well, and she deserves to be happy. So, like, I wish her nothing but the best. And, as Janelle saying, I don't think I'm next. Like, I'm not looking for a man in my life. Meri on the other side is like, no, I hope that I can be happy like Christine and be able to move on and find somebody that is going to love me. So that was
Yeah.
sweet. Robin just trying to like avoid everything, just being like, aren't we so happy for her, Cody? Aren't we just so happy? We're so happy.
I,
We're happy.
I'm not going to
For
comment.
her.
I'm not going to comment on that. That was
Awkward.
Robin being Robin, I guess. But yeah, I feel like Cody, at least when being on camera, tried to seem very supportive and happy for them. But I'm sure that he has his, smack talking behind the scenes.
But behind the scenes is where that should be. And
Exactly.
Cody doesn't always do a good job of keeping it behind the scenes. So
Right.
at least for this episode, he seemed overall respectful, like at a very baseline respect. And so that's all we can be grateful for from Cody in this.
Yeah. I'm giving into the show here for a minute. But when Robin says something like, "Oh, aren't we so happy for them?" Obviously being sarcastic by the way that she's saying it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Aren't we so happy for them? That tells me immediately that between the two of them, there has been a lot of smack talk going on
Towards Christine.
about Christine, towards Christine, maybe even about and towards David. I don't know. But because of the way she said that, we know we can kind of get a glimpse of there's a lot more being said not on camera.
Well, and she's like obviously trying to shut Cody up. Like she
Right.
was like, "We're so happy. We're so happy." Isn't
Right.
that what you're going to say? Like you can tell she's like over Cody saying stuff that he shouldn't say. So she's trying to stop him. He's like, "All I was gonna say is that my kid said, that dad found the love of his life, and so I want to find mine, and I think that's good." And she's like, "Oh, okay." Like she's trying to censor Cody as much as she can. And now that she's the only wife, maybe that makes it a little easier. I don't know.
The thing that one of the main things that I took out of all of this episode that is just so interesting to me is the fact that all of the wives now, including Robin, let's not forget Robin, all of the wives have now said that maybe polygamy is not good.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's not as good as we thought it was. Even Robin mentioned that in this episode, that maybe polygamy is not good. Or how did she say it exactly? Maybe it's not as
Maybe it's. I think I have
great
to
as I
know.
thought. I don't remember her exact
Yeah.
words, but she hinted at the fact that maybe it's not what she thought it was.
Yeah. So definitely hinted at the fact that she's going to be happy in a monogamous relationship. Because at the end of
Right.
season 18, she kind of talks or hints at, is it going to be a deal breaker that it's just her and Cody? Yeah, I don't remember. Does plural marriage really work?
Or
That's
yes,
what
there we
Robin
go.
said, right?
Yes.
But I think I can only imagine that the moment Robin really became a monogamous wife and she recognized, wow, it's really nice to. I mean, she already kind of had Cody to herself, but to not have to feel guilt about having Cody to herself, even Robin would have to admit that probably feels good to not have to worry about all these other women's feelings and you can
Yeah.
just do you, hang out, be yourself with your husband. And that's what Christine deserves. And that's what Christine got. And I hope that for Meri and Janelle as well. Like, I hope they can find someone where they can be their true, authentic self and be loved for that every day, not every
Right.
fourth day.
Exactly. Now, whether the polygamy not working was because of the wives, or because of Cody, or because of the mix of all of them together,
Or because of
or
polygamy.
is it because polygamy just never works? We'll have to leave that up to you to decide.
Yes, if you want to hear more about what it was like for Sam to grow up in polygamy, please like and subscribe, and we'll talk to y'all soon.
Thank you all. We'll talk to you soon.